Today is all about charcoal and how to create dark and light areas using a variety of different blending materials. If you love learning about art, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a weekly tutorial. You will need a piece of paper, a piece of charcoal, a blending stick, an eraser, and a paper towel. I have listed all of my favorite materials in the description box, and today I'm keeping it very simple, just using the basics. Value is the lightness or darkness of an area or a color, and we will be using charcoal to create a range of values from dark to light. This first one is going to be just using the charcoal itself to create our darkest value, and then without using a blending stick or your finger or a paper towel, trying to get some medium to light values. The first value is always easiest for me because it's pure black. I'm overlapping and you can see what a mess I've already made. Look at my fingers. So as you're working, you want a paper towel on hand or you want a trash can so that as you're building up the loose charcoal, you have a place to put it. So I'm not going to do any blending with anything other than the stick of charcoal itself. So the second value needs to be a dark gray. So I'm pressing down a little bit less and you'll see this paper has tooth or texture, and you can see the texture through it because I'm not blending it with any material. This is the simplest value scale of all, where you're doing nothing but using the charcoal to apply those values. So if that is black and then we have medium gray, this needs to be medium, and now I'm working on a medium light. You can see that the two values next to each other look super similar. So that's going to be tricky with this because I'm only using the charcoal itself and an eraser to kind of pull back any area that I was a little too heavy-handed with. I think this is going to be the most challenging section because I can't kind of go back and smudge it to the gray I want it to be, but it's a great way to learn without using another tool how to create those values without relying on a blending stick. Sometimes a blending stick gets everything the same gray, and I want a little bit more variety. So yes, this is a challenge, but it's a good way to practice. So it's not a perfect value scale, and you can see I'm trying to pull away with my eraser to make that light. With this, the white of the paper is going to be white. There are white and light gray charcoals, and they're really fun to use, but they can make your values a little bit more complicated. So I started with the challenge first, and now I'm moving on with my blending stick, which is such an easier way to apply value when using charcoal. Like before, I'm starting with black, my darkest value, and then you can see I'm putting a little bit of gray, or it's black charcoal next to it. Then with my trusty blending stick, I'm going to smooth that out, pulling that value from the darkest over to my darkest gray. I love using the blending stick. You can see how much more smooth it is. I feel like I can get it more in control. Sometimes the blending stick can make graphite look all the same, but for charcoal, it's just such a great way to create a smooth blend of value from dark to light. My goal is to get at least 5 values for each tool or technique, and so this needs to be my medium gray if I'm going to achieve that. So I'm really having fun smoothing this out, making it a lighter gray, and go back if you need to and darken. So I kind of made that a similar value. So I'm darkening my dark gray, which shouldn't be black. It should be somewhere in between dark and medium. So the trick is to press down with less pressure each time and just get less charcoal on the page in the areas that you want to be medium. So you can see I did that here. This needs to be, if medium is the last value I did, this needs to be medium light because I need to progressively get to just the white of my paper. You can see that these last two values are almost exactly the same. So I'm just kind of pulling the charcoal I have on my paper, smoothing it all out. Then I'll take my eraser and try and pull up some of the charcoal so it becomes a lighter value than the one I did before. So you're going to be going kind of back and forth of adding charcoal to certain areas to make them darker and using your eraser to pull away some charcoal from your paper. A kneaded eraser is a really great tool for this. Somehow I don't have any in my closet right now, and that's just a great tool when using charcoal. My last one here, I didn't apply any charcoal to the paper. I'm just using kind of the dirty mess that's left on my blending stick. You can see that there are streaks. It's not the smoothest, but you can kind of play around with using your eraser to even things out, and that's why practice is important because, you know, charcoal can be really smooth, but the texture of your paper can also be very interesting. So I'm going to be honest, my favorite of the techniques I'm going to show you is this blending stick because I feel like I have the most control, and I'm going to go and push myself a little further than the one I did before. I have to be honest, I got a little lazy with the first value scale. The light grays could be much more of a delicate touch. And again, I'm just using one piece of charcoal where you could get a set of charcoal pencils that have different weights to them, have different levels of charcoal, but this is just like the simple one piece of charcoal kind of basic technique. I'm just labeling the value scales I've done before so that I remember what I did. You can see such a difference between just using the charcoal and using a blending stick. And so next, you can see my hands are already dirty. I'm gonna use my finger, which is a student favorite. Students don't like to get dirty, I know that, but finger blending is something students always try to do, whether it's a pencil, pastels, and charcoal. So we're just gonna get messy and dig in and blend with our finger instead of the blending stick. I'm using the exact same technique where I apply my darkest value first, pressing down hard. I am going to the trash can now and just kind of dumping out some of that extra dust that likes to collect on my table. And then I'm going to use my finger and pull the excess that's left there into my dark gray section. If you don't like to get dirty, I will show you how to do this with a tissue or a paper towel, but it just doesn't get as smooth as is with your finger. You do need to be careful when blending with your finger, especially with like pencil and pastels, because your pencil absorbs a lot of the material and it can kind of make it look gunky and oily, but it is a good tool when used reasonably with charcoal. You don't want to, over blend. You want to wash your hands every once in a while and pay attention that you truly have a range of values and not just like the same gray smudge on the whole paper. But you can see it really does push it down into the texture of your paper. It really does make a nice value scale. I thought the blending stick was my favorite, but I really am enjoying this. Just keep in mind, yes, you're going to get really dirty. Look at my hands, and you don't want to over blend or blend to where everything is the same gray. If your paper is getting like a weird texture to it, if it looks like your paper has oils on it, you want to kind of stop and use the blending stick. So here we go with our finger blending. The last one I'm going to do is just a real quick value scale. This is exactly what I did with the blending stick, exactly what I did with my finger. Really the only different one is just the charcoal, because it's all about pressure and how much you push down or how much charcoal you add to the paper. So if you have students or yourself that don't like to get dirty and you don't have blending sticks for everyone, you can use a paper towel. Just keep in mind as you're blending, you're adding charcoal to the paper towel itself. So you want to kind of ball it up or twist it up in different areas so it's not all the same gray. So if it starts to all look the same, get either a fresh paper towel or turn your paper towel to another cleaner edge to kind of blend out. And again, just like with the other techniques, you're always going back, making sure your darkest is dark, medium gray is medium gray, medium is in the middle, and then you progressively get lighter until you have the white of your paper. This is all practice. This is all foundational skills so that when you master how to create value with your charcoal, whether you're using just a charcoal stick like me or you actually have pencils, then you can take these techniques and apply them to create artwork that really has great value, great depth and contrast, and really can look three-dimensional. My students will be drawing skulls, skeletons, antlers in the next few days, and this will be the practice that we do first. But if you've never done charcoal before, I highly recommend practicing this technique so that you really understand just all the ways you can use the material, whether it's just charcoal, a blending stick, a finger, or a paper towel or a tissue. Remember, there are so many different styles and types of charcoal out there. I didn't use white to create my value scale because I wanted to keep the technique super simple, but definitely that is something you can do to really get those light grays light. So play around with the materials that you have, play around with the different papers, see what you like, see what works for you. When it comes to art supplies, there's a million choices. Charcoal and charcoal pencils are such a great way to play around with value, contrast, and a really classic way to make art. Well, I think this pretty much sums it up. 4 value scales using just charcoal, a blending stick, my finger, and then finally a paper towel. Thank you so much for sticking around and making art with me, and if you're interested in more tutorials, check these out. Find me on Instagram at thatartteacher_Machado to see what my students are up to in my classroom. And find my website, thatartteacher.com, for full-length lesson plans and student examples.